Constant.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pleased to be here on the JarusHub video webinar where I'm meant to talk about job search and retention in a post-COVID world. Job search and retention in a post-COVID world. We are all aware that we are in a pandemic situation, and a pandemic situation is something that happens usually once in 100 years. The last major pandemic that was recorded in human history was in 1919, during the era of the Spanish flu. And we saw how millions of people lost their lives during the pandemic. So the question is, we are in this pandemic caused by coronavirus, also known as COVID-19. And the question is, how is it going to affect our work? How is it going to affect our ability to make a living? Prior to the advent of COVID-19, there was a lot of literature, going all around the world about the future of work, and it impacted, or it focused largely on the youth. The future of work was able to zeroize on three major dynamics that will set us apart in the future as far as work dynamics are concerned. And they are largely AI, artificial intelligence, robotics, and data science. Now, there are so many variants of analysis of future of work, but the point is that the way we were working before was definitely not going to be the way we're going to work in the future. And the pandemic, COVID-19, actually confirmed that. Since the pandemic started January, February, depending on where you are in the world, we've realized that a lot of people have been either thrown out of the job market, they've been impacted by something that's not their fault, and they're not sure where their next meal will come from, even after the pandemic has been resolved and it goes away. So how does it impact you? How does it affect you? How does it affect me? What's going to be the future of work for me post COVID-19? Am I still going to get my job once the COVID-19 issue is over, or am I going to be told, sorry, your services are no longer required? We must realize that human beings that are employed should realize that labor is just one factor of employment, just one factor in the production process, and it is expendable. The same way as you can have alternative sources of capital, you can have alternative sources of labor. It could be cheaper, it could be better, it could be automated. The fact is, labor is not something that is there forever. It is meant to change. So we should be ready to change. We are already in the fourth industrial revolution. We saw how the first industrial revolution, which was largely agricultural revolution, how it impacted the world. The electrical or mass production revolution, we saw how it impacted the world. Some of us were witness to the evolution of the internet age and the digital revolution, and now what we're talking about, the future of work and how it's going to impact us post COVID-19 era. I wanted to say that there are two things that we must be very, very conscious of as we move in this COVID era and post-COVID era. The first one is that you must, just like Robin Sharma and the sage said in the book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, you must run your own race. And what do I mean by running your own race? You must be comfortable with what you choose to do. That is a choice you must be ready to make. That is number one. And you must do that irrespective of what people say about you. It doesn't matter what people say about you. You must run your own race and determine what you want to do if you really want to be a success post COVID-19. Number two is that you must be prepared to change your work schedule. You must be prepared to alternate or amend the way you're working, whether it's your skills, whether it's your intelligence, whether it's your ability, your strength, whether it's your physical state. You must be ready to make amends in the way you are built and the way you perform to be a success in this current or the post-COVID era that we're going to be moving into. How are you going to change, and how are you going to determine if you are ready to change, which area you should try and change into or morph into? I think by outlining the future of work, that already has given us a bit of a guidance, which is that we must look at artificial intelligence, we must look at robotics, and we must look at data science. Now, you may consider that these are all difficult stuff. I'm an accountant. I've trained for 20 years. Will I not just start trying to write codes? You don't have to learn how to write codes, but you must be prepared to do something that is different. Even in your accounting job, you can make a lot of difference by following one of these three areas that I've mentioned earlier. The second thing that you also need to be conscious of as you navigate this era is that you should not be prepared for, or should ignore that sense of entitlement. Don't feel that you are meant to get something. No, be ready to actually work for something, and when you have to demand for it, you demand for it. But don't wait for someone to throw something on your laps. I'm a Nigerian. I come from the Niger Delta. We have oil, so I must have derivation. I must have this. I must have that. I mean, we've seen in our era where the price of crude oil has fallen into, from futures are selling at negative prices. So if you are waiting on crude oil to be your source of earnings or your source of living, where will you be? Where you are finding instances where people are having to pay people to actually just take this barrel of oil off us. The WTI ratings show that at a point, empty barrels of crude oil, empty barrels were more expensive, were worth a lot more than a barrel full of crude oil. Now that should say something, and that also emphasizes the need for you to be ready to change. I will ask that we should take advantage of the internet. You have a lot of free and cheap means of learning how to do new things on the internet. When you should go to universities that are online, whether it's Harvard, whether it's Coursera, whether it's Udemy. There are different areas that you can learn new things. This webinar is one of such areas that you should try and ensure that you learn very, very new things. So don't be shy, be prepared to change the way you are doing things. Just ensure that you must run your own race. And I will also say this, which is a quote from Foster McClellan: trust yourself. Create the kind of life you'll be happy to live with all your life, because we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. Thank you very much.